My name is Jeff Crilly. Welcome to Success North Dallas. I'm so thrilled to have as my co-host today the great Bill Wallace, the CEO and founder of Success North Dallas. How many years?
Jeff, 34 years. And when I started this in 1988, I thought it'd last 3 to 5 years. I'd pay my dues, I'd separate myself from the herd. But the big guy upstairs got a hold of it, and here we are 34 years later talking about succession planning.
Wow. Much more on Bill Wallace and his journey in a minute, but I want you to introduce our special guest.
To my right, Casey Haston. Casey's a part of a company called VIP, and we've worked together for the last 2 years at Success North Dallas. And not only has she become a dear friend, she's become an inspiration to me to help move Success North Dallas forward. And then to my left, Andrew Reed, I have to say Esquire. Andrew's an IP attorney, and he has an engineering degree behind that, but he's also a technologist. And as we age, we find we know so much about technology that we can't even turn on a computer. So Andrew, I'm so glad you've been working with us the last year. I don't know where it would
You're
be.
welcome.
And the name of your firm?
Karstens, Allen, and Gorley.
Karstens, Allen, and Gorley. Y'all remember that if you ever need anything to do with intellectual property or patents or things like that. And with Casey, if you need to find the person, the right person in the search world, in the accounting arena, and you don't call Casey, I think you've made a mistake. So there's my commercials for both of them. Jeff, let's move on.
All right, I want to start at the very beginning. Okay, 34 years. Tell us how it all started.
I was sitting in my mentor's office, Herb Kelleher, Southwest Airlines, with my other mentor, Roger Meyer, Cadillac dealer. So I had a Cadillac guy and I had an airline guy. How could I go wrong? And Herb looks at me, very straight-faced, and he says, Wallace, when you figure out why I should do business with you, come back and get out and figure it out. And this was in March of 1988. And for the next 5 months, I went to 48 different networking groups. And I looked for the things people did not like. Not what they liked, what they didn't like. With the goal of starting a very high-level networking, mentoring, and formal board of directors group for some what I considered key people. I invited 7 people initially, and I asked each of them to invite one removed from everybody else in the room, and that was our initial group. But there was something behind all of that. When I looked at what people didn't like, they didn't like card pushers. They didn't like pitch bookers. They didn't like selling of wares in the room, selling from the lectern. And way back then, paying of speakers because they kind of thought they owned the room. And several other things. And then right down at the bottom of that list was women. And I'll never forget talking with Herb and Roger later in that year. Went through that list, and I'd found a Buddhist word called sadhana, a taboo against what makes one feel uncomfortable. So I said, I'm going to put a sadhana against all these things, trying to be cute and liven it up a little bit. And I got down to women, and Herb and Roger, yep. And I said, well, Mr. Kelleher, we're going to have women. He said, well, you're going to have a big problem. You're going to have a problem. And I said, no, sir. I'm going to have a big problem. We're going to be a minimum of 30% women from day one. And back in 1988, women were not welcome in networking. And Jeff, I was told I was an idiot. I was stupid. Fellowship was of the masculine gender. It would never work. And why am I wasting my time? And lo and behold, they were my disruptors that allowed me to create transformational change in networking throughout the U.S. Much like your book, Free Publicity, changed the way people are looking at public relations, advertising, and the combining of the two. And it's just been an incredible friendship.
Thank you. And I should tell you, my journey with Bill started 21 years ago. I was told when I wanted to write my book, Free Publicity, that I had to know Bill Wallace. And so we met over breakfast at Benedict's. And I know you shared your wisdom with me and was a mentor to me as I was getting my book off the ground. So thank you for that.
Well, right back at you, because you were a mentor to me, and especially during COVID with the Anchor Desk Studios, the things we did with the CEO of Zoom, and to master this thing. It would never. I don't know that we would have survived COVID the way we did without you.
No, thank you.
You were masterful.
You're very generous. I want to make sure that we bring in our other guests. So I'm going to turn to you, Casey. You've been with Success North Dallas how many years now?
So I've lost track of how many years I've actually been with Success North Dallas, but I believe it's either 4 or 5.
It's been a long time.
He's put up with me for a while.
It's been a long time.
Okay, so one of the things that impresses me, Casey, is we get these amazing speakers. I mean, top flight speakers that can easily charge $50,000 to speak, and yet they come in for free. How is that possible?
They come because of the people in the room. We have such an established reputation of bringing in the best of the best business leaders all across the DFW area and sometimes the world, that these speakers find it an honor to be able to be in front of those people and to be able to speak to them. And it typically will spark other speaking engagements as well.
Yes, I want to bring in Andrew, because Andrew, you head up Success North Dallas Young Executives. So explain what that group is.
So we are working to build the next generation of Success North Dallas and making sure that there is continuity between what some have called the old guard and the young executives, to ensure that there is the mentorship aspect, make sure there is some knowledge passed down and passed through. Because you see it in business right now where you have people just walk away from a business and hand it off. And at that situation, all of a sudden, there's no knowledge. And the business can't move because that knowledge of how to operate the machines or how to get the business, it's all gone.
Well, I want to give you a lot of credit for your leadership, because I remember when Bill introduced the idea of the young executives, and I remember seeing like 4 or 5 at a table, and I really thought to myself, and I was wrong, I said, man, this will last about a week because they won't see anybody else their age, and they're going to drift away, and it was a well-intentioned idea, but it will never work. So Bill, I want to give you a chance to compliment Andrew on his leadership and what he's brought to the young executives.
Well, I've mentored 35 juniors to doctoral candidates, and one of the things I learned early on is you have to listen, you have to speak the language of the market, or you have to have somebody there that can speak the language of the market, that understands your values, your goals, and the long term. And Andrew was literally that perfect person. I can never forget the first meeting. We were all talking, and I gave the values of Success North Dallas. I gave our history, and then I left. I said, I do not speak your language. I want this to be your group. Andrew stepped in masterfully and has created something that is indeed the foundation of legacy for Success North Dallas. And not only has he done that, but he's taken us to another level of technology. So we're very fortunate to have both Casey with incredible strengths and Andrew with incredible strengths. And I've watched them, they complement each other. And as both of them have said, we would never have put us together. Well, maybe not, but we saw it differently.
So you gave everybody a real hell scare.
Oh my God.
I'll let you share that journey and have Casey kind of chime in, because she was right there with you.
Yeah, I ended up in the hospital in mid-April with the start of 7 different things I'd never had before. Over the course of time, and I did not get back to my home for 7 weeks. I was in the hospital over 5 weeks. I ended up being under anesthetic procedure 7 times, 12 transfusions, and I coded twice. And that, we had talked about succession planning, Jeff. You and I had talked about it. And it's been an ongoing conversation. Both Casey and I had talked about it. And I mean, I'll never forget her first, do you think I could be a fit? Do you think I could be a fit? And Andrew, he just didn't say anything. He shows up with a mixing board. He said, we need this in technology. He said, here, use this mic. And I'm watching these two, and I'm 72, so I can say young people, come in and just take hold and embrace it and love it, which is what I had been doing. And I had not, I've tried this before. This is not what I had found before. There was no user intent. There was simply embracing through love and 100% belief. And that time in the hospital, and this is bittersweet, folks. I'm alive. That's the greatest thing. But during that time, we moved forward the date on succession planning. And I'll never forget when I talked to Casey. October? You want to do October of this year? That's too soon.
And I have to interrupt you for a second because then he goes, why don't we just do it next month? And I was like, no.
October.
October sounds much better.
And Andrew over there, just nonchalant. You can just see him with the judge standing in front of him. Okay, Judge. I know we're going to do it my way, but okay, Judge. and it worked out very well. When you think about it, I missed 2 meetings in 34 years, and both of them were when I was in the hospital. Mm-hmm. And you were there, Jeff, you were there. There were people there that I didn't even know, because I for 3 weeks, I couldn't sit up or even roll over. But it inspired through the most difficult times, the greatest change takes place. And after 34 years, it's an opportunity to embrace legacy. And I've never said I wanted my name on a building. I just want somebody to say Wallace's footprints walked through here. And I have 2 people now whose shoes I could not fill. Speaking of footprints. And that's what's made this not just possible, but palatable. You're letting your baby go. Mm-hmm. You know, it reminds me of a chapter in The Prophet by Kalaka Ron. And the chapter is The Archer. And it's speaking to parents and creators of how we are the bow and we fashion the arrow as best it can be. And then we let it fly to where we know not. But we know we've put all the prep in we can to let that arrow fly. And so today, October the 19th, 2022, as we turn 35 years old, I'm pulling back that bow and I'm letting that arrow fly. And as we talked about before, women were our disruptor. I'll never forget. Herb Kelleher stood up, put his hand on his hip and said, well, heck, Wallace, I gave them hot pants and booze, you give them women and networking. And I never knew how prophetic, I didn't understand how prophetic that statement was until our 25th anniversary when we did the only luncheon we've ever done. Boone Pickens hosted, Ross Perot Sr. welcomed. We had the CEOs of Fluor, USAA, 7-Eleven, BNSF all on the same dais. And we honored Nancy Lieberman. And I, with David Hamilton, turned and looked out at the audience. And it was one of my proudest moments. Then I understood what Herb really meant. The audience was 50% women. So as we embrace this legacy, what better way or person to have embraced it than a woman? What better person to take over than a woman? And because fundamentally, you are why we're still here 34 years later. Because you were my disruptor that allowed me to create transformational change in networking throughout the U.S. I was talking with a dear friend of mine last night about Valerie Freeman, who's one of the most dynamic women leaders in Dallas. And I was telling her in North Texas and Texas, and one of the great in the women's movement, to the boardroom. And I told her, and she said, it only took you 34 years to learn. And so it's been so sweet, Casey, and I welcome you as the new CEO of Success North Dallas. And Andrew, I can't leave you out of this conversation. When I was in college, there was only one university that was teaching computing science. So, I did my grad work and all of this. And honestly, I can barely turn on a computer today because that was back in the early 70s. And you walked in and you started working with my number two, Jan Claudner, who's not with us today, but he's been with me for 33 of the 34 years. He's been handling our website, our invoicing, our just anything to do with technology. And we old guys thought we were doing it pretty good, pretty well, until Andrew Reed walked in. And I thought, And he said, we got a lot of work to do. And through the last year, especially the last 6 months, he's transformed the way we do almost everything, other than the broadcasting that Jeff Crilly does. But he did figure out a better way to get the sound to the broadcast and a few other little things. So Andrew, I welcome you as the new COO of Success North Dallas, and what you bring to the table, much like Casey, incredible interpersonal skills, incredible compassion, passion, love, and just both of you, just a whole new vision and thought process. Because I've taken it, and I'll throw Jan under the bus on this one too. Jan and Bill have taken this just about as far as we can go. I'm sure we can go on and maintain the status quo, but I don't see us in the position of speaking the language of the market that isn't going to need to be spoken for you two to be sitting here 34 years from now with two young bucks and saying, let me introduce you to the new COO, the new CEO. Now, folks, I can't welcome these two anymore, so I'm going to have to leave it up to you all to welcome them, to wrap your arms around them, to show them that love, that grace that you've shown me for the past 34 years. People like Jeff Crilly in my life, so many others, the Craig Halls, the Herb Kelleher's, the Colleen Barretts, I can just go on and on and on, of these people that came not behind me, but alongside of me to make Success North Dallas great. And you know, there's many quotes and many paraphrases out of that. But we, the members, we went out there and we looked at what people couldn't do and wouldn't do, and we became the people who would do it and did do it. And we've done it for 34 years.
Wow.
And we've had Casey, but could we pass this over to Andrew?
Well, this is what I'd like to do. We've got about 4 minutes left, and in that last 4 minutes, I'd like both Casey and Andrew to share your heart with what it's like to take over an organization with this kind of rich history, and then we'll give Bill the final word. Andrew, do you want to start?
Yeah, so for me, it's incredible because of the legacy that has been built and the thought that we're supposed to take that on and continue it and hopefully build on it. That's incredibly hard. It's something that you don't get offered that opportunity much, especially at my age. So to have that honor is both scary, but also incredibly rewarding, I think is the word to use.
I think we picked well.
Thank you.
Amen. Casey?
You know, I want to kind of go back to the time when Bill was in the hospital for just a second, just because that's what really sealed it in my mind that we had to do everything we could to continue his legacy. Because, and I don't know how much of this I've shared with you, Bill, but I went up there the second week when I was like, geez, I thought he was getting out yesterday, and they were keeping him, and I went up there to visit with him, and I'm sitting in there, and he's on oxygen, and he's not breathing well, and just the shallow gasps of breath, and because he wasn't getting enough oxygen, he would almost like do mini pass outs, and I literally thought you were going to die in front of me that day. And to have heard that you coded later, because I wasn't told that until after you got out of the hospital, but it was at that moment, I think I called Andrew on the way out of the hospital, and I was like, we have got to do something. We cannot let this wonderful organization, and I tell you, when I chose Success North Dallas as the place I was going to call my networking home, I'd been to many all around the area. This is where I chose to spend my dollars and my time because it was worth it. It was absolutely worth it. The speakers, Bill, his connections, I knew this is where I wanted to put my efforts behind. And for those of you who know me, I don't do anything halfway. I do it 150, so I had to be really careful where I choose to put my time and my efforts. And I have really treasured the friendship that has come out of this as Andrew and I have grown up together very quickly to be able to even think we could take over such an amazing organization as Success North Dallas. And do I think we can? I really do. Do I think it's going to be the same? No, it's not going to be the same. But it's going to always have the influence of Bill Wallace.
On that, Bill, final words.
Do I think you can? I think you already have. Do I think you're going to be the legacy that I've been looking for? You already are. So with that being said, we're embracing 34 years today, and I'm honored. Now, I'm not going, people might think I'm going to disappear, but I'm going to remain as chairman or chairman emeritus, whatever they want to call me. But I'm going to be around. There's no question about it. How could I walk away? But I'd like to formally introduce to you at this point the new CEO of Success North Dallas, Casey Haston. And I would like to formally introduce to you the new COO of Success North Dallas, Andrew Reed, Esquire. And I would like to welcome you in a different manner. And that manner is as we move forward and share the ownership. I've always said the true definition of an entrepreneur is the one who has the ability and does share the vision. Well, you see the Success North Dallas vision. Share the passion of that vision. And anyone that knows me knows I am so passionate about it. and then share the ownership, because we've got to know when to raise our hand and say, help.
Bill, will you end this episode the way you end every meeting?
With the greatest of pleasure. Ladies and gentlemen, may you do what you love to do with people you love to do it with on purpose. God bless and Godspeed.